Welcome back. Our guest in this segment of Citizens Forum is Dermot Travis. Dermot is with Integrity BC, and we're going to be talking, to start with at least, about BC Hydro. So, Dermot, take it away.
Well, I think something that all the viewers tonight are going to have heard about is the recent proposal by Bill Bennett to defer the hydro bills of 6 major mining companies for up to 5 years.
No, actually, I barely heard about that myself. It didn't get a lot of play.
Well, it should, and it shouldn't be an economic policy that quite clearly was written on the back of a napkin. And what he's done is that these 6 mining companies that have contributed more than $1 million, I might add, to the BC Liberal Party, have 13 mines in the province of BC. They're all going to be entitled to apply for deferral. Basically, they will not have to pay their hydro bills for up to 2 years. They will be put off. There will be an interest rate charged. There's no guarantee that the mine's still going to exist at the end of this whole exercise. It's all predicated on the fact that various mineral prices are at a low right now. There's no element in the plan as to what will happen if the price hasn't risen in that 2-year period. But what's most shocking, and this is what really impacts on viewers, is the fact that just recently, Jessa McDonald, the new CEO of BC Hydro, announced on a Friday, no less, a Friday afternoon, that BC Hydro would be applying for a 1-year interim rate increase of 4%, which is going to add about $4 per month to an average BC Hydro bill. Now, what's important about that is not the 4%, because that was already factored into the previously announced 28% increase over 5 years. What's critical about it, enjoying this, aren't you? What's critical about this is the fact that she was supposed to apply for a 3-year increase and apply to the BC Utilities Commission. And instead of applying for a 3-year increase, she's asked for just a 1-year increase. Why? She admitted it herself, because they now have to factor in what the cost of Bill Bennett's 5-year deferral program is going to be on BC Hydro. So we have the minister responsible for BC Hydro announcing major economic incentive programs to 6 corporations that are very generous backers of the BC Liberal Party, including the fact that one of those companies had Andrew Wilkinson as a paid lobbyist before he entered politics, who's now the Minister of Advanced Education, and nobody has any idea how much it's actually going to cost. And that ultimately, based on what Jessa McDonald said, the impact is not going to be on the mining industry. The impact of that plan is going to be on every ratepayer in British Columbia.
Can you just tell me again what Bennett gave them? A
5-year plan,
right,
where they can defer their hydro bills. These are all major hydro customers.
Completely defer.
Completely defer for 2 years.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
this has been a 5-year plan, but for 2 years.
Well, they can choose when they might want to defer. Keep in mind, this is all written on the back of a napkin.
Okay.
Jessa McDonald proved that on Friday when she shifted.
So they mean they can choose 2 of the 5 years? They
could choose 2 of the 5 years. For all we know, Bill Bennett could wake up one morning and decide, no, it's for the 5 years altogether, and Jessica will have to redo it.
Why not? So they get a year's free hydro?
They get 2 years free hydro. Free hydro in the sense that they don't have to pay it right away.
Yeah. How about the rest of us?
The rest of us always have to pay it. But what's interesting is that you normally give incentives to companies that you believe might actually be able to pay. Teck Resources is one of the companies. Its bonds have been downgraded. Thompson Creek Metals is based in Colorado, and Deutsche Bank thinks Thompson Creek Metals is on its end game.
Actually, Deutsche Bank may be on its end game.
Well, that's possible as well. But one of the other companies has just had its bond rating dropped to junk. These companies are not in good financial shape. He's offering a program that BC Hydro has, as they very clearly stated, no idea what it's going to cost, what the impact is going to be on you and me, who don't get to defer our hydro bills. And we have no idea what Bill Bennett could come up with tomorrow. Now, to put some additional context, Hydro-Quebec, in the last 6-7 years, has raised its rates on residential consumers cumulatively by about 15%. It reported a net income last month for the year 2015 of $3.1 billion. About 2/3 of that will go to the government of Quebec as a dividend to support social programs and other initiatives. In the same period of time, BC Hydro's cumulative rate increase has been 63%. And the dividend that BC Hydro pays the BC government, BC Hydro has to borrow the money to pay the money back to the BC government.
So where's all our money going?
Heard of Site C?
Yeah, okay, that's where money is going to be going, unless it
no
can be
money's
stopped.
going now.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Loads of money's
How
going now.
about the independent power producers?
Also going to them. You know, you're looking, I actually did an estimate that going back to 2010 and all the way until those contracts expire, they will cost BC Hydro $72 billion. Now, an argument can be made that there's a place for independent power producers, green energy.
It's not green energy. It's not.
I used independent power producers.
Yeah.
I didn't use run-of-river programs, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So windmills fit into that. A number of different types of technology can fit into that. Independent power producers, an argument can be made that we want to invest in that and that we are prepared to pay more per kilowatt than you might pay on a hydro project that's already built and in place. They haven't done that argument. They've done the argument that we're going to sign 25, 30-year contracts with companies that, as you pointed out a moment ago, are not necessarily all green and are, in fact, controlling our water resources in order to make that money. Again, all major contributors to the BC Liberal Party. And when I say a major contributor to the BC Liberal Party, everyone should also infer from that that they're not giving any money to any other political party in BC.
I saw a number very recently that said we're now paying over $1 billion a year to independent power producers. Would that sound about right?
I would put it closer to 2.
So we are paying, I mean, it's amazing that we never hear this, that because none of it was by accident. This was the plan from the beginning. They built these hugely expensive run-of-river projects, and BC Hydro tied us, with the provincial government, the Liberal government, just tied us into decades of contracts with them for power that we don't need, and all done in complete secrecy because the media never told anybody. So you said the number is $70 billion.
$72 billion.
That we're on the hook for.
Yep. And
hello.
well, one of the things that's important, and goes back to that green energy thing, is that the Canadian Wind Power Association has packed up their bags and left BC.
No wind?
They're heading to Alberta and Saskatchewan, where there's an actual government interest in developing green energy.
And we should mention that Site C and hydroelectric is not really green energy. The amount of methane given off from these reservoirs is very impactful on the greenhouse gas problem we have. And in the case of Site C, the flooding of, in all dams, the flooding of the natural land to create a man-made lake for our benefit is...
Well, put all the environmental, social issues aside for a moment. I think the one area on Site C that the government has failed miserably at, and they've failed at it because there's actually no basis for it, is the economic argument. They have not been able to put forward to the public a credible economic argument that this makes good sense for British Columbia. And the proof of that is the fact that they won't send it to the BC Utilities Commission for proper public hearing. Bill Bennett, when he was Premier under the Social Credit Party, didn't have any fears of the BC Utility Commission. He wasn't a coward. He sent the same proposal to the BC Utilities Commission. And the BC Utilities Commission said this makes no sense. And Bill Bennett said, thank you. That was that. Project over.
So, and yet now it's moving ahead.
Now it's moving ahead. No BC Utilities Commission. And what you heard this week from Bill Bennett is what Adrian Dix has called chasing customers. They're building a massive hydroelectric project that will have potential environmental, social consequences, and economic consequences for us, that they realize they have no customers for. And why do we know that? Because they're going to be applying to Ottawa for infrastructure money to build a transmission line from the Peace, not to the southern parts of British Columbia, but to Alberta, because they want to try to start selling power to Alberta. Well, one would normally have the client lined up before you start undertaking new projects, such as Site C. And they're doing it, fill in the blank, backwards.
And we are the ones who just watch the craziness go on.
Well,
all of us.
I think that people in British Columbia have to get themselves far more engaged in not just the popular protest issues that are happening in the province, but into the day-to-day grind of how government operates. Because I think it'll be an eye-opening experience for them. I think it'll shock them. And I think it will go a long way to improving voter turnout, because people will have a better sense of the type of government that they want, because they will have seen how government operates today and will be more engaged to go out and mark an X on a ballot.
Derman, I agree 100%. Thank you very much for this look at what's going on in this province, and thank you all for watching this week's Citizens Forum.